Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Albaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Albaugh.
Good morning across the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. I'm Todd Albaugh. It is Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Glad to have you along with us for hour number 3, along with our producer engineer, Mr. Aaron Zomers. Mr. Zomers, we have made it to hour 3.
We have had some real good stuff today so far.
Yeah, but a great show. Great show. Pat Kreitlow, Trygve Olsen, some great callers this morning as well. A great debate, great discussion. Love it. That's what we're here for.
Must be something in the air or the water today.
Right.
Pat also got a lot of callers.
Really? That's good. People are engaged. That's what we're here for. As we say, pursuing truth wherever it may lead. And great having that call, particularly from Robert this morning in Richland Center and Bev, Mr. Perry. It's great to hear from people on the ground. I think it's great to hear when these surveys that Robert was saying. Again, I used to help write these things. Surveys for state legislators. They send out, they call it a newsletter or a survey. Remember, you're paying for that. We're paying for that. That is all state taxpayer money. And so there are rules in how you send those out. It cannot be considered a campaign piece. And, of course, that's very murky, right? A lot of gray area there. But as Robert said, pay attention to the way those questions are written. Because it should be open-ended to get an honest response back, not the response back that the legislator wants. Great callers. Appreciate all of you listening this morning. You are what make us successful. And, in fact, we have been successful because of you. And because of that, we have announced that we are moving time zones. Not time zones, time slots. Starting Monday, June 5th, we are going to be on in the afternoon from 1 until 3. And we are going statewide. So thanks to Sage Weil, our CEO, and Mike Crute, our president. We appreciate the confidence they have given us, and that would not be there, folks, quite frankly, without you. They looked at our numbers and looked at who's listening. Done very well. In Richland Center, Wausau, Amory, number 1 show across the Civic Media platform in those 3 markets. And because of that, because of you making that happen, it was you listening, tuning in on the Civic Media app, giving us those great streaming numbers. It's all you folks. So we appreciate that as we pursue the truth together wherever it may lead. And because of that, we are going to the afternoon starting Monday, June 5th from 1 until 3. You can find us across the state of Wisconsin. In addition to Richland Center, Amory, Wausau, we'll be in Hayward, also Eau Claire, La Crosse, Madison, Milwaukee, Waukesha, Racine, Green Bay, the Fox Valley, all across the state of Wisconsin. So looking forward to speaking to all those Wisconsinites over the air. And, of course, we'll still be streaming on the Civic Media app as well. That begins on Monday, June 5th, moving to the 1 to 3 o'clock time slot in the afternoon. And as Mr. Zomer said, we'll be followed by our friend and colleague now, Matt Flynn, with Matt Flynn Direct. So that'll be a great crossover opportunity for all of us. Congratulations. We have a winner in the Brewers Trivia, Travis from Greenfield. Listening in this morning, Mr. Zomers, did he take all 4 tickets or just a pair?
He did do all 4. Yeah, I asked him, he's like, well, I got kids. We can do all 4. And I was like, excellent. There we go. Bring your family. Have a great time.
See, I love that. I love helping families and friends gather together. And as we said before, it's not just the Brewers game, which, of course, is spectacular in and of itself, but it's the fact that you get to have this time together to talk and to chill together. So congratulations. The answer, of course, is Bernie Brewer. What is the Brewers team mascot? Bernie Brewer. Has that mustache, kind of almost a Raleigh Fingers type of mustache. And, of course, Bernie has his clubhouse, and he slides down the slide every time the Brewers get a home run. So congratulations to Travis from Greenfield. We appreciate you listening in. Have a great time with your family or friends or whoever you're going to take. All 4 tickets. Those are club-level seats, folks. Great, fantastic seats right below the skyboxes. Padded cushions. You get to see into the Brewers dugout. You're sitting on the third base side. You can see the entire field. Great view of the scoreboard. Absolutely primo seats. Have your own concession stand, or for that level, bathroom is right outside the door. great seating area. It's a wonderful experience, and we are happy and proud to provide that to all of you the entire season via our flagship stations. It's WRCE News from the Center in Richland Center on AM 1450 and FM 107.7. And over on the eastern side of the state, the Big 1100 AM throughout the Fox Valley, Oshkosh Air Support, WISS. Appreciate them, and more importantly, I shouldn't say more, but as importantly, we appreciate all of our sponsors on both WRCE and WISS. Without this, our Milwaukee Brewers sponsors, we could not bring you these games over the air, and certainly could not give you the opportunity all season long to win these tickets. Be listening to Civic Media, not just our show, but all the great shows across the Civic Media platform for more chances to win free Milwaukee Brewers tickets all season long. The Brewers, by the way, got a big win last night. Joey Weimer and Owen Miller homered. Colin Ray combined on a 5-hitter, and the Brewers stopped the Houston Astros 8-game winning streak with a 6-0 victory last night. It was a great game. Colin Ray, I think, had not gotten an official win since like 2017. His first actual win since 2017, Colin Ray. Congratulations to him. Really a great the defensive stops last night were marvelous. It was really a fun game to watch. I watched it last night. So congratulations to the Brewers. Congratulations to Travis from Greenfield as well. Come back, have a little weather, news headlines, and talk debt ceiling after this on the Civic Media Radio Network. This is the Todd Allball Show.
We have to see that I don't belong to you, and you don't belong to me. Yeah, yeah. Freedom. Oh, freedom.
Get your paper. Get your paper. I'm here to shout it. Read all about it. Get your paper.
Welcome back to the Todd Allball Show. It is now 10:15 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Is that from Newsies? Or what's that from?
It is Get Your Paper by Eddie Fisher.
Oh, really? All right. Sounds like something maybe from Newsies or something
Yeah,
like
it kind
that.
of does.
We're going to be talking about this hour the coverage of raising the debt ceiling, not just about the issue itself, and we'll discuss that as well, but looking at what's popularly known as mainstream media, specifically major newspapers across the country. How is this thing being reported? And an honest look at that. And then what effect does that have on the American psyche, on the opinion of this? Question to you is, are you worried about this whole issue? Do you think this matters? Raising the debt ceiling. Are you somebody who's on a fixed income, Social Security, veterans benefits? And even if you are you worried about it? Or do you think, no, this is just hyperbole? Not going to matter. We'd love to hear your views on that. 715-388-7155. Again, 715-388-7155. Taking your calls on, are you concerned about this crisis of raising the debt ceiling? Do you think it's actually going to affect your life? Or do you think, nah, that's just more politician talk? We'd love to hear from you this morning. 715-388-7155. Again, area code 715-388-7155. Going to be a beautiful day throughout the state of Wisconsin. In fact, a beautiful holiday weekend. Kara Foster from Weatherology has dialed up a darn near perfect one. In Richland Center today, WRCE in southwest Wisconsin, mostly sunny. A high of 71 for tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 45. Tomorrow, becoming sunny and a high of 69 degrees. Over in Wausau, WXCO, Bull Falls, Radioland, partly sunny today, a high of 63. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, a low of 37. Be aware, up in Wausau in northeast Wisconsin, you may have a chance for some light frost in certain areas. So you have plants outside up in Wausau. May want to cover them just to be safe. But tomorrow, Thursday, sunny skies. A daytime high of 66. in Wausau tomorrow. Over in Amory, northwestern Wisconsin, WLAK Lake Air Radio. Mostly cloudy, a high of 65 for tonight. Mostly cloudy and a low of 46. Thursday, sunny skies ahead and 69 degrees. Beautiful weather forecast for your Memorial Day weekend. Couple of headlines, what you need to know on this Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Ron DeSantis is slated to officially announce his 2024 presidential campaign today, and he's doing so via Twitter. Florida governor planning a conversation with Twitter owner Elon Musk on Twitter Spaces, the platform's audio feature for his kickoff run. The decision is being seen as part of DeSantis' strategy to capture the loyalty of right-wing influencers in order to overtake former President Donald Trump for the 2024 GOP nomination. We shall see how successful that is. President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are getting warnings from their respective parties about holding the line on the looming debt ceiling talks. Progressive Democrats want Biden to unilaterally raise the debt ceiling through the 14th Amendment, avoiding a potentially catastrophic U.S. default. Some hardline Republicans have insisted McCarthy should not accept anything less than the conservative debt ceiling proposal already passed in the House, which would involve strict spending cuts. Some Republicans are even claiming the debt ceiling has been falsely manufactured by Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, which it has not. Yellen warned Monday that Congress only has a little time left to pass legislation to avoid a first-ever U.S. default, which would harm the U.S. economy and threaten the country's standing as a world superpower. Yesterday, Republican negotiators said there was still a, quote, significant gap, unquote, between Republicans and the White House on the issue. Going to talk more about this, as we said, this hour. Go through what major U.S. newspapers are reporting and how that affects what the public thinks and conceives about the issue. Catholic Church, now more than 450 adult Catholic clergymen abused nearly 2,000 children in the state of Illinois over a period of almost 90 years, according to a report released Tuesday from the Illinois Attorney General. The findings feature detailed accounts of alleged sexual abuse and lists of the accused clergymen, as well as recommendations to improve future investigations, keep churches accountable, and support survivors. China's new ambassador is in the U.S. for the first time since his current position started. Says he wants to enhance U.S.-China relations at a time of serious difficulties and challenges, unquote. It's no secret relations between Washington and Beijing have been especially strained following several uncomfortable diplomatic exchanges this year and the incident with the Chinese surveillance balloon in February. However, there have been some recent signals that tensions are smoothing out a bit. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with top Chinese officials, and China's Commerce Minister may meet with the U.S. Commerce and Trade officials in the U.S. in the coming weeks. Apple, not the fruit, the company. Apple is bringing more tech features to U.S. shores. The company announced a multi-billion-dollar agreement to develop 5G radio frequency and wireless connectivity components in partnership with U.S.-based manufacturer Broadcom. The components will be designed and built in several American manufacturing and technology hubs. The effort is part of a larger commitment Apple made in 2021 to invest $430 billion into the economy through 2026. It's also a sign of how bullish the company is on 5G technology. 5G stands for the fifth generation of mobile communication. First rolled out in 2018, the 5G network promises to be faster and handle more connected devices. The technology runs over new radio frequencies and requires extensive updating and expansion of cell towers and other equipment to provide coverage. Do you have 5G on your phone, Mr. Zaubers?
I do.
Really? Look at you. You're ahead of the game. I believe, I forget, do I have a 12 or 13? I think I have 12 is my generation of iPhone. And it was the generation just before 5G. So I do not, I have 4 of mine. So I'm Well, at some point, when I upgrade my phone, I'll go to 5. But have you noticed a difference with 5G? Do you notice a difference in speed or connectivity?
Not really, but that's also because I don't really use my data for anything too demanding.
Got it.
Like I'll be listening to music. Sometimes I already have it downloaded. Sometimes I don't. Either way, 4G or 5G can handle that.
Yeah, I know a couple other people that have it. They say they kind of notice a little bit of a difference. But I also think it's kind of like when HD television started, right? Like if you don't have a lot of content out there in HD at first, or if you don't really notice a difference. You have to watch content that's shot in HD or now 4K, and then have a device that can really bring that out. So I think maybe it's different content is produced. I don't know. I love technology. I don't always understand it.
I think that obviously the move to HD TVs or HD radio signals and all that stuff has made a big difference. And I'm sure there are people who are more affected by 5G. Like if, for example, if we're doing the show on the road using 5G instead of 4G, I'm sure that would make a big difference because you're doing something live.
Right.
But if you're just playing back stuff like I'm doing, I'm not trying to watch a 4K movie streaming live on my phone.
Well, here's what I remember from my communications class from Jack O'Neill down at UW Platteville. The cell towers, regular cell towers, up through 4G, those signals travel further or farther than the 5G. The 5G requires more towers closer together in order to create the network. I suppose faster data can't travel as far without being, for lack of a better term, rebooted. So that's part of the problem bringing 5G to rural areas like southwest Wisconsin or northern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, because when you get in the rural areas, of course, already standard cell phone service can be spotty at times anyway. You get down in the valley, and it's pretty tough to get signal now. I think that's people in urban areas don't get that. They think that, everybody gets cell service. No, they don't. You go out where I'm from in southwest Wisconsin, you go over by Ithaca, in some of those valleys over there, you still can't get cell service. And the reason that companies don't increase cell service more quickly in rural areas is because there's less people, which means there are less potential subscribers to sign up. So, of course, cell phone service always gets upgraded first in the most populous areas. And then 5G is even a bigger challenge because you have to go out into rural areas and put 5G towers closer together. So we shall see. Little by little, though, they will. But whether this is a big issue that we're going to tackle in another show is connectivity in rural areas of Wisconsin, broadband in rural areas of Wisconsin, fiber optics in rural Wisconsin. As more and more companies allow their workers to work from home, and people can live anywhere and work for a lot of jobs, connectivity is becoming more and more crucial to where people decide to live. And if we want to have our rural communities grow and be sustainable with a tax base, you have to provide good communication and the ability for people to have connectivity. Whether that's cell phone service, 5G, fiber optics, broadband. And some communities are further along than others. But again, this is an issue that our state legislators give a lot of mouth service to, but not a lot of money and not a lot of actual help. So we'll talk about that on a different show. But I want to bring that topic up since it's in the news today. Something we should continue to ask our state senators and representatives about. What are you doing for rural broadband? What are you doing to reach across the aisle and work with Democratic Governor Tony Evers? Because I know he's for this. And Republicans will say they're for it too. But again, there's a lot of lip service, but not a lot of work product.
They're for it as long as it is free and they don't have to care about it.
Right, exactly. Anyway, we'll get into that on another show. We'll bring a couple of guests and talk about rural connectivity. What I want to go to today, we'll pick up on this after the break. But there's a great article today in Media Matters, MediaMatters.org. Article entitled "Newspaper Reporting of Looming Debt Ceiling Crisis Fell Horribly Short." reporting from 5 of the nation's leading newspapers left out crucial context information for readers about the dire stakes of Republican brinksmanship. A great story written by Craig Harrington. What are newspapers and other media telling us about the debt ceiling, and how does that affect the way we look at it? We'll pursue the truth wherever it may lead after this. Don't go anywhere. This is the Todd Albaugh Show, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Like Hootie, true pimp, spin no dough on the booty. Yeah, there go Mace, there go your cutie.
They want from me is like the more money we come across, the more problems we see.
Welcome back to the Todd Albaugh Show. It is now 10:33 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Along with Mr. Aaron Zommer is our producer and engineer. What do you got dialed up there on the tunes, Mr. Zommer?
Mo Money, Mo Problems by the Notorious B.I.G.
Notorious B.I.G. So when you see him on the street, that's always the question. When you see him on the street, do you say, good afternoon, Mr. Notorious B.I.G., or do you say, good afternoon, Notorious Big? Which is it?
Well, he's dead, so.
Well, yeah.
No, you say B.I.G. or you say Biggie.
Well, he's dead, says Mr. Summers. I guess point well taken. But I guess you wouldn't say anything because you're not going to see him on the street
But
anymore.
if you did, I would say, hey, Biggie.
Biggie. All right, Biggie. All right. I like the kids to help me out because I don't know these things. I don't know these things. Always great to have a Generation Z person around. That's fantastic. All right, well, this half hour, this segment, we're asking you on this whole debt ceiling thing, the debt ceiling in Washington, this June 1st deadline. Are you concerned about it personally? Do you think that this is going to affect you personally, your personal life? Or do you think it's a bunch of hooey? Give us a call, 715-388-7155. Again, area code 715-388-7155. Great article by Media Matters for America, MediaMatters.org, entitled Newspaper Reporting of Looming Debt Ceiling Crisis Fell Horribly Short. Says a Media Matters analysis of reporting on the looming debt ceiling crisis from the 5 of the nation's leading newspapers, including the USA Today, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the Los Angeles Times, revealed that their collective reporting frequently lacked important context to inform readers about the Republican-manufactured crisis, which could imperil the American economy and the global financial system if it is not resolved. Pardon me, still working on these allergies and clearing out my throat. Apologize. Article says from May 1, the day Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen issued a letter to Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, a Republican of California, warning that the debt ceiling would be breached in 1 month's time through May 12th. The newspapers I mentioned published 78 stories focused on the debt ceiling for their millions of collective readers, both in paper and online. Washington Post had 23 stories. New York Times, 22. Wall Street Journal, 20. Held a distinct advantage over the LA Times, which only had 8 stories, and USA Today only had 5 stories in the sheer number of articles published on the subject. So this is from May 1 through May 12. Though there was some noticeable variation in the quality and quantity of coverage from each representative outlet, their reporting largely missed the opportunity to adequately inform readers about the contours of the current debt ceiling crisis. This is fascinating to look and see where major newspapers are putting their efforts and what they're telling us. Because a lot of times from these major, the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, LA Times, all these, what'll happen is other reporters then will look to these stories as to how it's kind of a domino effect, especially in today's world when you have fewer reporters doing more work under strict deadlines, and not just to write a story for the paper version. They're under deadlines to write multiple stories, have deadlines throughout every day to produce content to go on the digital side of each of these things. So what happens a lot of times, and it's not really the fault of the reporter, they'll say, well, I'll take and attribute part of this to the Washington Post. According to the Washington Post, blah, 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 blah. And that becomes part of their story. So these big newspapers certainly have an effect, a domino effect, on how we all receive news and information. So here now for Media Matters, who analyzed all this, from May 1st to May 12th, just of all these newspapers I mentioned, just 6 articles, 8%, mentioned that Republicans increased the current national debt significantly through their own tax and spending decisions, or mentioned that Republicans ran high annual budget deficits during the Trump administration. Just 8% of the stories pointed this fact out. Again, facts, indisputable, that Republicans increased the national debt significantly through their own tax and spending decisions. Also, Republicans are the ones that ran high annual budget deficits during the Trump administration. Next one, just 15 articles, or 19% of the stories, mentioned that Republicans routinely raised or suspended the debt ceiling during the Trump administration, or that Democrats supported those efforts. We've talked about that, right? That during the Trump administration, Republicans raised or suspended the debt ceiling. And when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House and Democrats controlled Congress during the Trump administration, Democrats supported those efforts. We played the clip of Trump while he was president saying, that's a sacred thing. I've talked to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. You don't mess around raising the debt ceiling. And then on CNN a couple weeks ago, no, I changed my mind. We should absolutely hold out. And when Kristen Collins said, but here's what you said when you were president, what's different? Trump said, quote, I'm not president anymore, unquote. It's the hypocrisy, the politics of this thing. But remember, Republicans routinely raised or amended the debt ceiling during the Trump administration, and Democrats supported it then. Next one, just 15 articles, or 19% of the stories in these major newspapers, correctly mentioned that Republicans are responsible for the looming debt ceiling crisis due to their own intransgressions and brinksmanship. In other words, Republicans are the ones who are creating this problem. If they just followed the line that every other Congress and president have done, we would not be in this situation. And again, Republicans, they try to create this narrative that this whole thing is overspending. It is not. Let me say that again. This is not about spending. As Matt Flynn, our colleague, likes to say, you spend the money when you pass the budget, which has already been done and signed into law. That's like putting the bill on a credit card. Now you have to pay off said credit card by raising the debt ceiling, which happened under Trump and every other president. And Republicans refuse to do this strictly because there's one reason. It's because the current U.S. economy is doing well under President Joe Biden. And right now, in almost every poll, Joe Biden leads Donald Trump in a hypothetical rematch in 2024. And Trump is well on his way to being the Republican nominee. And Republicans know this. And they know they are not in good shape if Trump is the nominee. That Joe Biden has a great chance of beating him again, largely because the economy is doing well. And so the only way to get at Biden to damage him politically is to tank the economy. And they're doing this on purpose for strictly political purposes. And they're willing to put your Social Security and your veterans benefits and a whole lot of other things that are important to the United States of America's citizens at risk. Not to mention tanking the economy and potentially, keyword potentially, taking us into a recession. Think about that. People who were elected for the betterment of all citizens of the United States of America willing to tank the U.S. economy on purpose in order to damage Joe Biden politically. Do not get it confused. This whole crisis of raising the debt ceiling falls 100% on the Republican side. And I'm here to tell you, those of you who listen to me, if I thought differently or there were facts different, I'd tell you. This one is on the Republican side. Their fault. Next topic. Reading now this article from Media Matters analyzing newspapers from across America. Looked at the New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, LA Times from May 1st to May 12th. And sussing out what they've been reporting. Just under half, 36 articles, or 46%, mentioned draconian cuts to federal spending being proposed by Republicans in exchange for the debt ceiling increase. Only half the articles that are out there are correctly reporting that what the House Republicans passed are draconian cuts to spending, including veterans' benefits, I might add. And now that got leaked out and was exposed, that veterans' benefits could be cut by 20%, Republicans are trying to walk that back. Which only means that other things in our lives are going to be cut by even more if the Republicans have their way. A majority of these articles, 49 or 63%, suggested that Republicans plan to default on U.S. sovereign debt obligations if the GOP's demand for substantive cuts, or rather substantive spending cuts and budget changes are not met. Let me try that again. 63% of the articles written on the debt ceiling crisis suggested that Republicans plan to default on U.S. sovereign debt obligations if the GOP's demands for substantive spending cuts and budget changes are not met. Again, we've talked about this on this show before. It's not just what's happening here in the U.S., all right? The U.S. dollar is the standard trading currency for most major countries around the world, including China, including Saudi Arabia, including Europe. They use the dollar. It's worth more. The value is more. And if we default on the debt ceiling, what we risk as a country is for other countries then to say, well, if we can't rely on the U.S. dollar, maybe we should look at the Chinese yen or the euro or other currencies. It devalues the U.S. economy around the world. It destabilizes the world economy, and it's putting private businesses at risk. If you're a Republican or you're someone who supports private business, you're putting private businesses at risk by devaluing our currency if we default on the U.S. debt. It's like throwing a rock into a still water pond. You know, you've done that as a kid, take a flat rock and try to skip it, or you just throw a rock in the pond and ripples come out, right? One rock in the middle of the pond, ripples all across to the shores. That's what will happen if Republicans allow this crisis to hit, on June 1st or thereabouts. It's not just going to be here in the United States. This will ripple out across economies around the world, which will only devalue and destabilize private companies here in the U.S., which, of course, is only going to mean layoffs and job cuts, theoretically, but most likely. And then if the economy goes to hell, you know who people like Derek Van Orton are going to point the finger to? Joe Biden. Well, Joe Biden did this. This is Joe Biden's economy. He's president. That is completely a crock of crap. Derek Van Orton and the rest of the Republicans in the House have the ability to not let that happen. Because again, raising the debt ceiling historically, both under Republican and Democrats, has never been the time to negotiate on spending. That is during the budget, and that's fine. That's a fair debate. If you want to cut spending, I'm not saying there's places in Washington we can't cut spending. Do it. But you don't put our nation's economy at risk. Back with more after this. This is the Todd Allball Show. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to the Todd Allball Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 10:50. That is 10 minutes before the hour of 11 o'clock. That is 10 minutes away from As Goes Wisconsin with our friends and colleagues Kristen Bry and Jay Matnair. Great program. Always going to inform you, make you smarter if you listen to them. Also probably going to make you laugh a little bit and just make you feel better. Isn't that what you want sometimes out of a radio show or any programming for that matter? You want to learn something, and you just want to feel better. You're going to do so. You're going to feel better. You're going to be more informed if you listen to As Goes Wisconsin just after the news and weather at the top of the hour from 11 until 2. Kristen Bry, Jane Matnair, always a great time on As Goes Wisconsin. At 2 o'clock then on Bull Falls Radio, it is the Chad Holmes Show with Chad Holmes. Great program yesterday. If you didn't catch it, go back and listen to the podcast on civicmedia.us. Chad Holmes had a big day yesterday. Had U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin visited the Wausau studios yesterday at Bull Falls. Had her on. Also, Mayor Katie Rosenberg of Wausau. A great, great person. I've had her on this show. Really great person, great mayor up in Wausau, Katie Rosenberg. Always has his finger on the pulse of central Wisconsin. It's the Chad Holmes Show from 2 until 4 on Bull Falls Radio. Elsewhere across the rest of the network at 2 o'clock, it is Dueling Tangents with Luke Mathers and Brian Kelly. Never going to know what they're going to talk about, whether it's clean water, the Bucks, recombobulation with Dan Schaefer. You never know. I believe it's Wednesdays with Will today, if I'm not mistaken. So they may have some news. We'll see. Tune in. Could be a very newsy Dueling Tangents today with Luke Mathers, Brian Kelly, and William Walter at 2 o'clock. At 3 o'clock then, it is the Matt Flynn program, Matt Flynn Direct. Lines are open. All callers taken. You're not woke if you don't know history. How does fascism start, Mr. Zommers?
It creeps in on little cats' feet.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how it creeps in or starts. Great program as always, Matt Flynn Direct. And then at 4 o'clock, it's the program from 4 until 6, Devil's Advocates. I'm looking at reading one thing and saying another. Devil's Advocates with Crudy and Dom. It's never personal, only politics. Devil's Advocates from 4 until 6. At 6 o'clock, then Native Roots Radio. And at 8 o'clock, Rick Smith Across America. Another great lineup on Civic Media. Don't forget, our bit of news that we're changing time slots here on Civic Media. Starting on Monday, June 5th, we'll be coming to you every afternoon from 1 until 3 as we take the program statewide from Madison to Milwaukee, Racine, Green Bay, Hayward, Amory, Richland Center, Eau Claire, La Crosse. We thank you for giving us this opportunity. Without your listenership, without you tuning in, we would not have this opportunity. So thank you to all of you. And, of course, thank you to Mr. Zommers for being a part of it as well, our great producer and engineer. We're moving on to 1 o'clock. Moving on up, as the Jeffersons theme song says, 1 until 3 every afternoon, starting on June 5th. And the program this morning with a disturbing story, not usually the way I like to end. But sometimes news and importance just has to be told. Associated Press headline, Target becomes latest company to suffer backlash for LGBTQ plus support. Pulls some Pride Month clothing. Really disturbing. Coming up in June here, Pride Month. an opportunity for folks who may be gay, lesbian, bi, trans, whatever, just to have a month to say, you know what? Let's celebrate diversity. Same thing as Black History Month. Same thing as Asian Pacific Islander Month that we're in right now. Jewish Pride Month. And of course, what? We have coming up all kinds of Italian heritage we celebrate, German heritage, Oktoberfest. We have all kinds of months for all kinds of folks, whether it's ethnicity or in this case, sexual orientation. To say, be you. Just be you. And for the rest of the folks who might not be of that persuasion, or folks who might not be German or black or Jewish, it's a time that we can learn about someone else who's different than us. And say, well, I didn't know that. I think that's kind of cool. It makes us better. And also it's a time many stores will sell rainbow shirts or multicolored merchandise to celebrate Pride Month. Did that when I worked at LL Bean. I'll be wearing that in June. Have a great, cool, it's the LL Bean logo in different rainbow colors. It's just a chance, I happen to be gay. It's a chance for those who are not gay to say, you know what, I'm not gay, but hey, I support you. It's a cool thing, especially for youth, young people who may be struggling, who don't have anybody to talk about. When they see other people during June wearing pro-Pride Month clothing, it's like, whew, it's okay. I got people out there who got my back. It's a supportive type of thing. And so Target has a display, much like LL Bean or other companies do, a small display of Pride merchandise to support LGBTQ plus folks. Well, now the mega crowd, the Trump crowd, is targeting Target. In fact, I'm not going to play it, but there was a video online this morning of some guy in a mega hat, a Trump hat, going into Target and taking down the pro-Pride display and smashing it on the ground with his foot and walking away very proud of himself. Associated Press says Target is removing some of the items from its stores and making other changes to its LGBTQ plus merchandise nationwide ahead of Pride Month after an intense backlash from some customers, including violent confrontations with its workers. Quote, since introducing this year's collection, we've experienced threats impacting our team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work, Target said in a statement on Tuesday. Given these volatile circumstances, we are making adjustments to our plans, including removing items that have been at the center of the most significant controversial behavior. Target said that customers knocked down Pride displays at some stores, angrily approached workers, and posted threatening videos on social media from inside stores. Target declined to specify on Wednesday which items they were removing. This is just sick. And we talked about it before this show. This new sense of violence unleashed by Trump and Trumpism. It's not enough just to disagree with people anymore. Trump made it okay to have physical violence against people we don't like or disagree with. And that is the most un-American thing I can possibly think of.
Especially against just store employees. They didn't choose to put up the display anyway. Whether or not they agree with it doesn't matter. It's not their responsibility. They just work there.
Exactly. It's threatening other Americans with violence. And we're going to keep speaking out about this as we continue. Kind of a downer way to end the show, but an important way. Stay tuned. Kristen Bryan, Jay McNair, As Goes Wisconsin is next. This is Todd Allball. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. And remember, whatever you believe in, like Americanism, getting along with each other, don't give up. Keep banging your drum.